I got a weird one for you. Do you guys remember the JRPG Weekly Update? Towards the end of that run, there was this game that was in development that kind of caught my eye, and I was oddly drawn to it. It was called Destiny Connect TikTok Travelers. Well, one thing led to another. It came out. I ended up never having time to actually talk about it when it came out, but I got recently a download code to give it a shot, and I know you guys haven't really been waiting on it, but I kind of have, so I wanted to talk about this. But before we do, everybody, if you're new here, I am SuperDerek. Please be sure to get subscribed because I make thoughtful and thought-provoking content for gamers who love RPGs, new and old, and somewhere in the middle, I guess, as well. So Destiny Connect TikTok Travelers is that game that took place in the year of 1999, just on the cusp of becoming the year 2000, and there is these super stylized characters that looked kind of neat, in my opinion, kind of like maybe a modern take on the Earthbound aesthetic where it's kind of cartoony, or by today's standards cartoony, and they had this big old robot and stuff. I got my hands on this copy of this game, and I'm still pretty excited to give this a go. So I feel like Destiny Connect TikTok Travelers would be a phenomenal entry point for younger RPG players. And maybe that's something I should have foreseen a little bit based on the trailer, based on some of the design aesthetics, the choices that they made. But what's also kind of interesting about some of the design choices, I guess, for a game that's kind of looks like it's meant to be an entry level, a gateway drug for young children, is that some of the words that they use in the game, like some of the text is obviously meant to be aimed at younger people, where someone refers to themselves as mama or papa or something to that effect, right? But then at the same point, you'll like talk to the gal's grandma, and she runs like this cafe downtown, and she's talking about how New Year's Eve is one of her most lucrative times of the year. And she said the word lucrative, and I'm like, lucrative, huh? Okay. All right. That's a vocab word for some youngsters to start learning, I guess. Sure. And that wasn't the only case where they threw in kind of a word that seemed maybe more complicated than I would have expected for a children's game, but I suppose that's not a bad thing, right? You want to expose children to more, every once in a while, words that that might help drive up their vocabulary, their prowess with the English language. That's one of the other things, is I feel like if they really wanted to do that, maybe they should have had this game voice acted instead of just have the text scroll, you know? I feel like if this was really aimed for a younger audience, maybe the read-along sort of thing where you have the people acting out and speaking out the text would have been more conducive to, you know, my first RPG sort of experience. But that probably would have been a little higher of a budget than what this game had to go for. Based off of what I'm seeing, it's not really a super cheap title, but it definitely isn't meant to be like a AAA with all the voice acting and all the bells and whistles. I do also have to say that I feel like this game is quite the vibe. It's interesting that they would have aimed this game toward young children when clearly the game being set 20 years in the past would probably more likely appeal to people my age, in, you know, their mid-30s, who would like to go back and experience being a young teen, early adult, adolescent again. You know, I feel like if they're going for like the nostalgia angle, which they kind of do a little bit, then maybe targeting a different demographic would have been a little bit better. But maybe this is the perfect game for maybe a new parent to play along with their child who's now starting to enter the reading stages and getting into RPGs. The more I think about it, the more I'm talking myself into this. This could very well be the game for your children to get into RPGs. It's definitely got a really interesting vibe, especially when you start out. The music is really good, and there's this sort of sunset it's almost like a permanent sunset at the beginning of the game. It reminds me a lot of the very beginning of Kingdom Hearts, where you're in Twilight Town. It got this very nice, smooth vibe going on, and everybody's excited about the new year and stuff. And then what eventually happens is that the clock strikes midnight, and just as that happens, time kind of freezes, and you end up seeing all these sorts of crazy appliances and things coming to life. It reminds me a lot of the well, at the turn of the millennium, a lot of you guys might have been watching Discovery Channel. I know I was, and they had these things talking about how the Mayan calendar predicted that at a certain point in the year 2000, all of our electronics and appliances would turn against us, and then jaguars would come down and kill us all and stuff like that. I remember this because it freaked me the heck out, bad dreams and stuff about it. So that stuck in my mind. So playing through this, it really reminded me a lot of that hype around Y2K and the whole end of the world schemes that were going on, but it delivers it in a kind of not really scary, but like maybe for a child might be a little bit creepy, you know, sort of situation where you are fighting against these like TVs and other appliances and stuff, and you're using, well, a big robot, and the girl gets like a hairdryer that's turned into like a gun. It's really weird. It's really zany, and I feel like the more I talk about this and the more I'm thinking about it, the more I feel like this is definitely a game to be played by parents or by children with their parents. I feel like this would be sort of a fun way to experience this sort of thing for both people. But that said, I do feel like the camera controls inside of the house, inside of the home, were really, really bad. The camera is not mapped to the right analog stick like it would be in most games. It's pretty much like you're controlling a Nintendo 64 game again, but they've lost that little touch to make it feel intuitive. Now, it's worse inside of environments, which luckily only really seems to have occurred a couple of times so far during my first 6 hours of gameplay here. But outside, it's less of an issue, and you can, you know, hit a control button to center your frame of view, which is pretty handy. But I did want to kind of just mention that a little bit. I feel like the leveling system seems pretty intuitive. The skills and magic and stuff that's in this game, pretty intuitive too. That said, if it is for children, it doesn't go into full-on ridiculously easy mode the way that like Mystic Quest kind of did. I do feel like I still encountered a bit of challenge. So I feel like what I found here is like the perfect my first RPG for all of your children out there, if you have children. And if you don't, then, you know, I still feel like despite the dialogue being kind of drab and it's not really a story that's super hardcore, you might, if you're my age, you might still appreciate some of what it has to offer. So if you find it on the cheap, pick it up. And if you have kids, it might be worthwhile to seek it out and give them a go at it and see what they think, see what they feel. Maybe they'll get into RPGs. I know that this is kind of a random offshoot of what I normally talk about, but hey, if you do like what you saw here, please be sure to get subscribed, because I am SuperDerek. I make thoughtful and thought-provoking videos for gamers who love RPGs, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day, everybody.